there's a lot of legitimacy with Bitcoin. You own Bitcoin because you're frightened of your security in your country. You own Bitcoin because you're frightened of the debasement of your currency. I was on a panel in Washington with Jamie Dimon, and I piled on and said, Bitcoin is the currency for money launderers and thieves. So I did say that in 2017. I actually went on a journey, and I talked to a lot of people who were true believers. And I became a believer. You know, not like it's going to be a currency, but I believe that there's a role for it like digital gold. Most of BlackRock's business is based on long-termism, and I always raise the question, why would anybody invest in a 20 or 30-year outcome unless you believe the 20 or 30-year outcome is going to be good? Because if you didn't believe in over a 20, 30-year horizon that that those long-term investments would be better, you would keep all your money in a bank account or in a mattress.
The CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, shares his prediction for Bitcoin and crypto investors in 2025 and why there's a tsunami of capital about to pour into the crypto market. He highlights the role of Bitcoin as a digital alternative to gold, serving as a hedge against inflation and currency devaluation. Fink emphasizes that Bitcoin is not tied to any specific currency, making it an international asset that investors need. Fink emphasizes their Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, and believes that BlackRock's track record speaks for itself, demonstrating the company's dedication to responsible and long-term investment strategies. Fink sees the digitization of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a force that can revolutionize finance and democratize investment by tokenizing assets and securities, including Bitcoin. He believes that the cost of investing can be significantly reduced, making it more accessible for a broader range of investors. Let's get right into the latest interview with Larry Fink, as he gives his prediction for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in 2025.
You have the whole intersection of crypto and what role can Bitcoin play. But it's attainable if we unlock private capital. Yeah. We cannot rely on federal spending as much. And that's the irony. If we unlock private capital, when we have $12 trillion sitting in money market funds, if we unlocked private capital and we lifted the uncertainty to have more certainty of where we're going, I think there's some great opportunities for investors long-term, great opportunities to invest in America, to build America. But if we don't unlock private capital, if we don't allow a streamlining of permitting so we have better understanding of the length of time it takes to put the shovel in the ground and building things, if we don't start focusing on more public-private types of financing vehicles, we're not going to grow at 3%. Flat out, we're not going to grow at 3%. And the last thing I would just say, talking about the deficits, we will never grow out of our deficit problem if we think we have to cut spending. The reality is we need to unlock growth opportunities because, as you said, Greg, the interest payments of our deficits are just going to be overwhelming, and we've been cutting back entitlements already. And so these are some of the big fiscal issues that we're facing, and we need to have that conversation. I think we're not taking advantage of all the private capital. If we get more savers, and this is true for Europe, for Japan, for all parts of the world, if we get more savers investing in the growth of their economy, their country,
This is your op-ed piece. This is what you're saying in the op-ed.
Yeah, I believe when you keep your money in a deposit or in the bond market, you're a creditor. We need our savers to be long-term believers in our economy, in our great companies. We need to show them why the compounding of return is so beneficial for them and the outcome over a long period of time. Let's be clear, over the last 40 years, pessimism has not worked. And we're ripe with pessimism right now, and I don't think there's any changes. Over a short period of time, pessimism may work in a substantial way, but over a long cycle, if you believe in the entrepreneurialism of this country, which I do, the fundamentals of our educational system, we're the model of the world. And I had a conversation with a leader of another country last night, And we talked about what differentiates the United States from Europe and other places is our capital markets. And more countries are trying to emulate
even the
our
Europeans.
capital market. Well, the Europeans must do it.
Yeah.
And if the Europeans don't create a more solid banking union and a more solid capital markets union, the enthusiasm that we are seeing in Europe is probably going to be misguided. I had a trip to my European offices a few weeks back, and quite frankly, the Europeans were quite frightened. They were frightened of, their partners, the United States, and where this may go. But what I was probably the most surprised when they were frightened because we're a U.S.-based company. That is BlackRock changing too? And I said, we are going to be the same we were 37 years ago that we were going to be in the next 5 years. And it was just a wake-up call even for me, and I think I'm pretty well experienced in this stuff. Again, when there's great moments of uncertainty, even your top leaders need to be led. You need to confirm who you are and what are the responsibilities of us as an organization. And that's just a wake-up call. It is our views that economic activity was going to be driven more and more through the capital markets, less through banking system. And if you think about our growth was really a function of the growth of the capital markets and the globalization of markets. And through that fundamental backdrop, we believed in each and every country, as they grow their capital markets, then we could play that role. And I think we got that trend as well as any organization in the world. And then it was augmented then after the great financial crisis when regulators worldwide elevated bank capital and required banks to have 20-25% more capital, which meant banks were inhibited by 20-25% in lending.
Embracing an unyielding enthusiasm for the Bitcoin realm, Fink confidently predicts that explosive growth is looming on the horizon, as BlackRock and many other crypto giants are doing just that. Fink reassures, it's the fastest pace of adoption of any investable asset in all of human history. By the end of 2025, there will be 1.1 billion active crypto wallets. The pace of growth is hard to comprehend, and it will be the fastest accumulation of wealth we have ever seen. This is the conclusion of a career's worth of research. And every single chart and piece of research leads to the same conclusion. Liquidity drives everything, and crypto will be the best performing asset of them all.
But also, I believe if you look at the fundamental growth trajectory of different parts of the world, and if you just looked at the growth of Europe versus the growth of the United States post-financial crisis, the U.S. GDP grew 7 to 9/10% compounded over 15 years more than Europe. And I believe today the fundamental problem with Europe was they did not grow their capital markets at the same time. Capital standards were lifted in Europe, and they had no source of new capital, similar to the United States. They had to shrink their balance sheets or grow their capital base. And if you think about the growth of private credit, that was stimulated basically by the rising capital standards of the banking system. The two major issues, economic issues that are facing the United States are two issues that we don't talk about at all. And maybe there's a little bit right now. One is the deficits, and two, the fear of retirement by so many Americans. And to me, getting back to my optimism, I'm optimistic generally over long cycles because we solve problems. You cannot solve problems if you don't have a conversation. And the issue of fear of retirement and our growing deficits are the two most consequential issues that we don't talk about. I was in Washington yesterday, and I saw many members of Congress, and deficits are not truly a part of the conversation. So
even after Musk is tweeting.
Yeah, so it's been elevated a little bit. But let's set the context. After 223 years of being a nation, in 2000, the deficits in the United States were $8 trillion. took 223 years to create an $8 trillion deficit. And in the last 25 years, both parties are guilty of this. Our deficits are now at 36 trillion, and now we have a pending tax bill. It's going to add 2.3, 2.4 trillion dollars on the back of that. To me, this is, if we don't find a way to grow at 3% a year,
real growth
at 3% a year, we're going to hit the wall. This is why I've been writing about we need to unlock more private capital. This is getting back to the capital markets. This is another way of helping retirement. We need to unlock private capital in this country. We need to be streamlining permitting. We need to be focused on rebuilding our infrastructure. So despite all this pessimism, I mean, the foundation of growth is there. We just need to unlock it. And if we can unlock that growth, I'm not as pessimistic about the deficit. But if we cannot unlock the growth, and if we're going to continue to stumble along at a 2% economy, the deficits are going to overwhelm this country. And importantly, 25% of the US Treasury market is owned by foreigners. That's not a good situation when we are now battling in many countries related to tariffs. And so you're starting to begin to see a weakening of the dollar. There are some big questions on the vitality of the United States. I think long-term that'll be proven wrong.
Fink recognizes the current challenges associated with Bitcoin, such as the bid, ask, spread, and transaction costs. He hopes that regulators will view ETF filings as an opportunity to address these challenges and create a more affordable and democratized crypto market. Fink also highlights the potential of blockchain technology to streamline transaction processes and reduce the need for intermediaries in the financial ecosystem. His perspective on Bitcoin and BlackRock's involvement underscores the firm's belief in the digitization of assets and the transformative potential of cryptocurrencies. While regulatory considerations and challenges exist, BlackRock remains committed to providing investors with innovative investment opportunities and driving the adoption of digital assets within a regulated framework. What are your thoughts on Larry Fink's opinion regarding Bitcoin, and how will BlackRock's approval completely change the crypto landscape? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you in the next video.